We're going to learn how to put formulas into a table, and in order to do that we need to figure out the anatomy of a formula. Formula includes three different elements. The first is the equal sign, and you can think of that as your activation. Without an equal sign, you do not have a formula, so make sure you always start with the equal sign. The next thing is you need the function. That is, you need to tell the table what you want it to do. Do you want it to add, multiply, average, determine the top, or the maximum sales, or the maximum number? And then what you need to do is you need to include a pointer, that is, location of the data that you want the table to consider. So those are the three elements. You need to activate it, you need to include a function, and you need to tell the table where to look for that data. So let's do that with the first table here. I'm going to click first of all in the cell where I want the total amount of sales for 2010 to appear. And then in my ribbon bar, I'm going to click on the Layout tab. I'm going to go over to the word Formula, and then a new dialog box appears. And we have the formula already. We have it activated with the equal sign. We have the action. In this case, we want it to add, and it is called sum. And we want it to only look at the numbers above. And so in doing so, we just need to then tell the table how we would like it to illustrate those numbers. And we want it to illustrate it with the number and then a comma and 3 digits afterwards. So now that I have the formula, I have the number format, I have the cell located, I click on OK. What happens is it puts the entire total in that cell where my cursor was flashing. I can do the same thing for sales for 2011. I go up to the word Formula. I ensure that the formula includes the activation equal sign, the action, in this case we're sum or adding, and all of the above numbers, and I click on OK. What's wrong with that? Well, what I forgot to do is I forgot to actually put in the way in which I would like Word to display those numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to Formula, make sure that the formula is correct, and then in this case, make sure that I have selected the right number format. Once I've done that, I want to ensure that it's consistent with all of the other numbers as well in terms of its illustration. So this can get a little tedious, because if you're having to total up a number of different rows or a number of different columns, you can find it very difficult to do that again and again. Well, let's look at the next table. We have Northwest, Southwest, and all of these different regions and the different quarters, and we need to total each one of the quarters in the last column. So I make sure my cursor is in the right location, I click on the word Layout, I go over to Formula, and you can see that it's slightly different. It now says equals sum left. So now it's looking for all those numbers to the left. I have the number format already selected. I click on OK. The shortcut to ensuring that you just put the same formula in the adjacent cells is by clicking in the cell and then press F4. You do the same thing with all the adjacent cells, and then that saves you going through those extra steps in creating a formula for each one of those cells. Now what we want to do is we want to add all the totals up for these quarters, as well as the total for all the quarters together. In order to do that, I select the word Formula once again. I make sure it says above, which it does. I make sure that the number format is correct, and then I place the number format in the correct cell. Because I've already done that, I can immediately press F4 on my keyboard and place all the adjacent totals in their spots. And that is how you insert a formula in a table.